Well, after missing out on a return to the Foreign Ministry, Stephen Smith is back in the hot seat in his old defence portfolio tonight. Almost 800 plausible complaints of abuse have been exposed in the investigation that followed last year's Skype sex scandal at the Australian Defence Force Academy. And military chiefs have pulled rank on the minister to demand the Academy's chief be returned to duty after Stephen Smith stood him aside. Political correspondent Tom Iggulden reports from Canberra.
Last year's Skype sex scandal has triggered an avalanche of abuse claims in the military, stretching back 6 decades.
It was like my whole world just came crashing down around me.
There's already talk of a potential Royal Commission and a compensation scheme to deal with 775 allegations described today as plausible and potentially criminal.
The initial part of the report is, in my view, unpleasant and sobering reading.
A separate report triggered by the scandal was sobering for the Defence Minister. It found the actions of the Australian Defence Force Academy's Chief Commandant Rod Kafer were not at fault in the wake of the scandal, and that Defence has no option but to reinstate him as head of the Academy.
And indeed, on the contrary, if he didn't return to ADFA, there'd be a risk of legal action to require him to be so reinstated.
The Defence Minister still argued against the reinstatement when the report was first delivered to the government in December.
There's a difference between a difficult conversation and a conversation about a difficult matter.
But the military brass pulled rank.
My authority under the Act is quite clear in terms of positioning of individual persons and managing people within the ADF.
Mr Smith effectively removed Commandant Kafer last year after he conducted an unrelated disciplinary hearing into the cadet who complained she'd been filmed having sex without her consent by fellow students. The disciplinary hearing, Mr Smith said, put the cadet's character into question.
The fact that it went ahead shows anywhere from complete insensitivity to complete stupidity. I don't resile from any of those remarks. I might be old-fashioned, but that's my view. I stand by everything I did and said at the time.
Despite the rift, Mr Smith says he has full confidence in the top brass.
The Minister's trying to squeeze out of the fact that he's pilloried this bloke, scapegoated him for nearly 12 months and now refuses to apologise.
Do you think that as a result of the ADFA affair that the leaders of the Australian Defence Force have lost confidence in you?
Absolutely not.
No fewer than 7 reports were commissioned in the wake of the Skype sex scandal. The 2 most controversial, one's been withheld, while the other's been heavily censored. Meanwhile, Wayne Swan may have wished he could have blacked out some of the figures in the latest economic update released today.
The number today is somewhat softer than many people expected.
December quarter growth was about half that forecast, dragging down the annual growth rate to 2.3%. It's the last major economic update before May's budget. The government's still committing to a surplus.
I think in some ways it's going to be the hardest of them all because of the reasons that I've been through today.
He's never had a tough budget because he's never delivered a surplus. So I think Wayne Swan is gilding the lily yet again.
The Shadow Treasurer is also insisting only the opposition can be trusted to produce one.
Based on the information available today, we will deliver a surplus in our first year in office and every year after that.
That's despite a warning from the Treasury Chief today of a drastic fall in government revenue over recent years.
Surpluses are likely to remain at best razor thin without deliberate efforts to significantly increase revenue or reduce expenditure.
I'd love to hold football.
And there were more questions today about where the opposition would find the money for its paid parental leave scheme.
I'm not going to apologise to the big businesses of our country for asking them to pay this modest levy, given that they will receive a modest compensating tax cut.
Or, as the Treasurer put it,
arguing he's somehow going to cut company taxes whilst he simultaneously increases them.
The opposition leader says the scheme's staying. Tom Iggulden, Late Line.